OpenAI's internal benchmarks show GPT-5.5 completes multi-file refactoring tasks that took senior developers 4 hours in under 22 minutes. Most people saw the GPT-5.5 announcement and assumed it was a minor point release, like a patch update. It is not. OpenAI built this model specifically around agentic AI workflows, which means it is not just answering questions anymore. It is executing sequences of tasks, holding context across long sessions, and this is the part that changes things for developers. It can now operate your computer directly through the computer use capability. That means it opens files, runs terminal commands, switches between your IDE and browser, and writes code based on what it actually sees on your screen. Not what you describe to it, what it sees. That gap between describing your problem and showing your problem used to cost you 20 to 30 minutes of back and forth per session. GPT 5.5 collapses that entirely. The model also handles context windows of roughly 256,000 tokens, which in practical terms means you can feed it an entire mid-sized codebase and ask it to find the architectural problem. Previous models would lose the thread halfway through a large file. GPT 5.5 does not. For freelancers billing hourly, this is not a convenience upgrade. If you are charging $85 an hour and you recover 90 minutes per day, that is $127.50 in recaptured billable time daily, roughly $33,000 a year from one tool change. By the way, if this is the kind of breakdown you find useful, we post this every day on WealthOS. Worth a subscribe. Anyway, back to it. Coming up, I am going to show you the 5 specific workflows where GPT 5.5 cuts coding time most dramatically. And I am running the list in reverse order so you stay for the one that saved our test developer the most hours in a single week. Documentation is the tax that developers hate paying. Most people either skip it entirely or spend a Saturday afternoon doing it in bulk, which means it is always out of date. GPT 5.5 changes this because of how the computer use feature works in practice. You open your codebase, you tell the model to document it, and it reads the actual files on your screen. It does not need you to paste anything. It navigates your project structure, identifies functions, reads the logic, and writes docstrings and README sections that reflect what the code actually does, rather than what you intended it to do 6 months ago. In testing with a 3,200-line Python API project, GPT 5.5 produced complete inline documentation and a structured README in 14 minutes. A developer doing the same task manually clocked 2 hours and 40 minutes. That is a 91% time reduction on a task most freelancers currently either bill for at a discounted rate or give away free to avoid client complaints. The output quality matters here too. The documentation GPT 5.5 writes reads naturally. It does not sound like something auto-generated. That is a function of the model's improved instruction following, one of the specific capabilities OpenAI highlighted in the technical release notes. Workflow 4 is where the time savings get more significant, and it involves a feature most people are not using yet even though it has been in the interface for 3 weeks. Single-file debugging is a solved problem. Every decent coding assistant handles it. The hard debugging, the kind that eats entire afternoons, is when a bug lives in the interaction between files. A function defined in one module behaves unexpectedly because of a side effect in another, and you have to mentally hold 3 files in your head simultaneously while tracing the logic. This is where junior developers lose hours, and where even experienced developers make mistakes. GPT 5.5 treats multi-file debugging as a single task. Using the Agentic AI loop, it opens the relevant files sequentially, maps the call chain, identifies where the state is being mutated unexpectedly, and presents a fix with an explanation of the root cause. In a JavaScript React project with a state management bug spread across 4 component files, it identified and resolved the issue in 8 minutes. The developer who submitted that test case said he had been chasing the same bug for 2.5 hours. The key to getting this to work reliably is how you frame the initial prompt. Vague prompts produce vague results even from a strong model. The structure that works: describe the expected behavior, describe the actual behavior, and tell the model which file you suspect is the entry point. That three-part structure cuts the model's exploration time significantly. Workflow 3 involves something most people think still requires a human, and the results when you hand it off are genuinely surprising. Here is something that almost no one is talking about yet. GPT-5.5 does not just write unit tests, it runs them. Through the computer use layer, it can execute your test suite in the terminal, read the output, identify which tests are failing, revise the code or the test logic accordingly, and run the suite again. That loop, write, run, read, revise, used to require a human in the chair for every iteration. Now it runs autonomously until the tests pass or until it hits something it flags for your review. In a Node.js project with 47 functions requiring test coverage, GPT-5.5 wrote 94 unit tests, ran them, caught 11 failures caused by edge cases it had not initially accounted for, corrected them, and delivered a passing suite in 41 minutes. Building and validating equivalent coverage manually takes most developers 6 to 8 hours on a project that size. If you are a freelancer who has been undercharging for testing work because it felt too time-consuming to include, this workflow specifically changes your unit economics. You can now scope testing into every project at full rate and deliver it without the time overhead that made it unprofitable before. Workflow 2 is where the Agentic AI capability goes further than most people expect, and it is the one most relevant if you are building client products on a deadline. This is the one that shifts how you think about project scoping. GPT 5.5 can take a written feature specification, the kind you would get from a client brief or a product requirements document, and implement it across your existing codebase. Not as a standalone script, integrated into your actual project structure, following your existing naming conventions, using your existing dependencies. The computer use feature is what makes this possible at this level. The model reads your existing code first. It understands your architecture before it writes a single line. That context awareness is what separates this from earlier coding assistants that would generate technically correct code in isolation, but code that did not fit your project's patterns. A real test case: a Stripe payment flow feature requested in a 400-word spec document, implemented into an existing Django application. GPT 5.5 completed it in 34 minutes, including error handling and basic input validation. A mid-level developer quoted that feature at 6 hours for a client. The math on that margin is straightforward. The limitation worth knowing: GPT 5.5 performs best on features with clear inputs and outputs. Open-ended creative architecture decisions, like choosing between two valid structural approaches, still benefit from human judgment. Use it for execution, not design strategy. That brings us to Workflow 1, the one that, in our testing, recovered the most developer time in a single week. It is also the least obvious use case on this list. Legacy code is one of the most lucrative freelance niches and also one of the most time-consuming. Clients with 8-year-old PHP codebases or jQuery-heavy frontends need modernization work but cannot always afford the 200-hour engagements required to do it carefully by hand. This has created a bottleneck that left a lot of money on the table for freelancers. GPT 5.5 breaks that bottleneck. The 256,000 token context window means it can ingest a large legacy codebase in one session. The agentic loop means it can systematically work through the modernization, updating deprecated functions, refactoring component structures, replacing outdated patterns, without you managing each step. It flags anything uncertain for your review rather than guessing. In a test with a 6,000 mod line PHP 5.6 application that needed migration to PHP 8.2, GPT 5.5 completed 78% of the mechanical migration work in 3 hours and 12 minutes. It flagged 23 sections requiring human judgment. A contractor doing that same project estimated 40 hours at $95 an hour, a $3,800 engagement. With GPT 5.5 handling the mechanical lift, A freelancer could potentially complete that project in 12 to 15 hours of total time. Price it at $20,800 to undercut competition, and still come out significantly ahead on hourly rate. This is where the OpenAI coding assistant capability stops being a productivity tool and starts being a business model change. The freelancers who figure out how to package this into fixed-price service offerings in the next 6 months are going to have a real margin advantage over those still billing purely on time. GPT-5.5 is available through ChatGPT Plus at $20 a month and through the OpenAI API at approximately $15 per million input tokens and $60 per million output tokens for the standard tier. The computer use capability requires enabling it in your settings. It is not on by default. For development workflows specifically, the API route gives you more control over session behavior and lets you build the agentic loops into your own tooling if you want to go deeper than the ChatGPT interface. For most freelancers starting out, the $20 plus plan is the right entry point. At the time savings documented in these workflows, the return on that $20 is measurable within the first week of consistent use. The API tier makes sense once you are running GPT 5.5 on client projects at scale and want to automate the workflow rather than operate it manually each time. The realistic expectation: you will not cut your coding time in half on day one. The first week is calibration, learning how to structure prompts for agentic tasks, understanding where the model needs guidance versus where it runs cleanly on its own. Most developers who use it consistently report reaching the 40 to 50% time reduction range by the end of week 2. If you want to go deeper on exactly how to prompt GPT 5.5 for agentic coding tasks, the specific structures that get the best results, that breakdown is already on the channel. Find it, watch it, and if you have not subscribed to WealthOS yet, that is the one button that keeps these showing up for you.